Hey, what's good guys? This is Chris from WearTesters.com. Welcome back to the official WearTesters.com YouTube channel, the only sneaker channel here on YouTube where you come for the review and stay for the conversation. Today we're taking a look back at the only sneaker Kyrie Irving has ever worn in the NBA with full-length zoom. So for those of you guys that do not remember, this is the original Nike Hyper Rev. This, to my knowledge, is the one shoe that Kyrie wore that had full-length zoom, that had his PE branding on it. There was two colorways of this model. Although recently there was some talk saying that the LA Lakers, coincidentally enough, are or that Kyrie Irving's camp or management or whatever is like going to entertain the LA Lakers this summer during the off season for like a like we could discuss like if you guys want to recruit me. And I just think it's funny because this is an LA colorway, but that's neither here nor there. These guys right here, like I was saying, is the original Hyper Rev. This shoe was one of the weirdest shoes that I had tested at that time because it was one of the first ones that was like built. I mean, they're built like a sock. These are trippy. And so I wanted to pick up another pair, and because I had two pairs originally, I gave them both away. And I wanted to pick up another pair, kind of revisit them. I'm still rehabbing my calf, but I was able to get a little bit of on-court footage. And basically I wanted to know like if these were as good as I remember, because I really loved these things when they first came out. And the fact of the matter is not really. What? Now don't get me wrong, they are still awesome. The traction on these things is incredible. Like this is like some blade traction. I used them outdoors and it was awesome. And I remember one of the few things that I was kind of like worried about when I first got these in hand was this foam piece right here. I didn't know if it would actually grip or not. You can see this one had been worn down quite a bit, which is what happens if you use these outdoors extensively. Again, this is just foam. This is all rubber. But the funny thing is that the foam gripped almost better than the rubber did back at that time. And I just think it's really interesting. But yeah, these things still grip the floor really nicely after all these years. And one of my favorite features on them was how smooth they were in transition. If you happen to strike with your heel and roll right into your forefoot, the tooling design and all that stuff really aided you in that, and it still does. And then these things do feature full-length zoom air, which they showed you right through that little window right there. This window also acted as a torsional bar, which is really cool. So while this shoe is very minimal in terms of the overall like design and setup, everything on this shoe was very much functional. Nothing's on here for no reason. Now the part that I just don't think held up well over time is this build right here. This is you know, all mesh, and it's just a very thin layer of mesh on top of that. Basically you have this one top layer right there. You can kind of see the fly wire cabling going through, and then underneath it is almost like a nylon and neoprene kind of like interior that you can't really see. And that under layer that you don't see is really the only thing kind of keeping you in place in this shoe other than the fly wire strands for the lacing system. The structure of the shoe in the rear is foam, which is like super weird even to this day. Like I remember it being weird back then in 2013, or maybe it was 2014, something around there. However, it all really worked well as long as you kind of got that sizing down right. If they fit you like a glove, then you normally did not have a problem with these. And I just feel like over time, this kind of like mesh area right here, it does not contain your foot on top of the footbed as nicely as I would have liked. That and the fly wire, it's just, you know, altogether not strong enough. I think that design nowadays where you sit within the midsole is really like the way to go. And these were kind of pre that time frame. Although there was shoes that did have it, these just did not. It was basically your foot on top of the platform or the tooling. And you know, the upper was the main thing that was like really keeping you on there, and these just don't do the best job of that. They are still a very solid sneaker though, so if you have a pair, you know, they are still like 100% playable. But it's one of those things that I think that the line refined as they went on. Although I will say that the cushion, like the feel of the shoe underneath your foot, it really didn't get any better than this version right here. The rest of them kind of like went on to segmented zoom, heel and forefoot. This was the only one with full length zoom. Now back when these originally released, the price point was like really reasonable. I think it was like $120 or $125 for a shoe like this that had full length zoom. I mean, it's awesome, man. Like you got something like, I think it's like the Russell Westbrook shoe, the Why Not 01. I think that's like $130. It's kind of like the closest thing that we have to affordable full-length cushion like that. So I think it was nice in that sense that these were one of those like cheaper almost offerings as far as retail price goes, but the tech specs, at least in the cushion department, were awesome. They really saved on that upper though, because that really costs almost nothing. In terms of overall fit, they do fit true to size. However, I'd recommend going down half a size for most people just to make sure that you get that overall one-to-one fit and containment. However, these things are a pain in the ass to put on. They were back then, they still are now. They do have these little grip things for your thumbs. You're supposed to be able to put it on like that while you shove your foot in there. But even with those things on there, man, these guys are just really hard to put on. However, once they are on, again, you're pretty secure. You're just not, you know, contained on top of that footbed as nicely as shoes have, you know, become since this time frame. Funny thing is that Leo Cheng designed these bad boys right here, and he also is or at least he was the lead designer of Kyrie's initial models, all the way up until the 3, and then for the 4 and 5, we have a different guy doing it. His name's Ben, and he's been doing the last 2, which he's done a great job of, by the way. But that pretty much takes care of it for just a quick look back at these things. I wanted to revisit them and just kind of like see if they were as nice as I remember. They were in most aspects other than the containment aspect. I think that shoes nowadays, since this time frame, since it's like really lightweight, minimalist type of setup, they've really like fine-tuned things to the point to where it really works now. Something like the KD12 is kind of similar to this, almost in all areas. It's got the cushion is very similar. The materials are kind of similar. The way that the fly wire is implemented in between the upper layers is similar. All that stuff. I feel like that shoe is a perfect example of this is what they had just a few years ago, and already we have something like even greater. And then those things really do contain your foot on top of the footbed, the way that the midsole is sculpted and all of that kind of stuff. So, you know, I think that these shoes were awesome at the time. I just think that nowadays they've even done it better, which is interesting. And that's exactly what you want to see from a brand, by the way. I know that a lot of people kind of give, including myself, give Nike a lot of because they're supposed to be, you know, the pinnacle of performance. They're number one, and they should be number one for a reason. And this is a clear-cut example of that, where the shoe's still great, but the little things that they've done have really shown that, you know, they've taken design like this and really evolved it over just a very short amount of time, which is really awesome. If any of you guys have played in the original Hyperrev, sound off below and let me know. Let me know your thoughts. Have you played in them recently? And if you have, do they, you know, play as well as you remember? Also, out of all of the Hyperrev models, which one is your favorite? I can't pick between this and the next one. I think it was the Hyperrev 2015 or something like that. I can't remember, but I know that the second one is really, really cool, and I liked all of their features. I just thought that the cushion in this one is the overall best, especially for the price point they originally released at. But sound off below and let us know, is this Kyrie's best shoe, by the way? Because like Kyrie, you know, has worn like the Hyper Dunks and all that stuff, and obviously these guys prior to his actual signature sneaker. Do you prefer this type of setup, or do you prefer the minimalist, absolute no cushion setup that he's been known for since the Kyrie one? Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all your support, and until next time, guys, have a good one.
Isn't full-length Zoom like the #1 wanted cushion system amongst basketball players?
It's my favorite. I don't know amongst everybody. There are some people that don't like it.
Like Kyrie?
I don't know if Kyrie does not like full-length Zoom or not, because clearly he's played in it before. I don't think that he would play in something that he doesn't like.
Yeah.
But I mostly think that his signature shoe, they've all been under, I believe, this retails, like whatever this retailed for. I think this was like 120, and I think, are they at 120 now? The Kyrie 5?
I could not tell you.
I can't remember, but I know that they're right around that price point. The earlier models though were like 100 or 110. So just because of that, the brand wants to make certain profit margins, and for whatever reason, putting in full-length Zoom like that, like it's supposed to increase the price or something like that. Like somehow their costs, even though these are all these bags are like already made.
Well, I just think it's weird. Why would you put it in a shoe and then move away from it?
That's like the ultimate question for like anybody, because it's like, or you could say this about any top tier performance shoe, right? Like where like you're like, yo, that was it. And then the next year it's like, well, that was disappointing, because we're all, you know, kind of like whatever the last year model was. Like very, very similar to the next Hyperrev. We were all loving that for whatever this retailed for full length Zoom. It was solid, all that stuff. And then we were expecting like, oh, the next one's gonna be even better. And the next shoe, they downgraded.
Okay.
You know, they upgraded the traction, but they downgraded the cushion, and stuff like that. And then they kept doing that. And so like the Hyper Rev, other than this one, never had this tech spec before. So then it makes people like us being like, was this a mistake?
Right.
Or did y'all really try it? Like, you know what I mean? Because it's like, why go away from something that was so smooth that a lot of people did like? And so it's a question that like everybody has all the time. I do not know if everybody just loves, because everybody has a preference. So you can't, like, everyone is everyone.
No, I understand, but that was the huge deal about Protroing the Kobe line, is we're all gonna get full length Zoom, and then obviously we didn't with its latest.
Yes.
But it was a big, like, this is what we want, and so it kind of feels like, why don't we give the people what we want? If y'all have a line where it's starting out with this, why would you go away from it?
I don't know. That's like, I would love to know. That's just as, like, I think that everybody would like to know. That same question is applied to the traction all the time. If you know,
People like herringbone.
yes, if
And
you
swirls.
well, and that it works.
Yeah.
So it's like, why is it that every season, with every however many shoes released each year, as a reviewer of the products, like that's playing in it, like the traction's like where you start, right? So it's like, if the traction sucks, it doesn't matter how good everything else is, because you're just sliding around on the floor and stuff. And I get that the traction depends a lot on everyone else's court conditions. So it's, you know, it's impossible to have everyone have the same exact experience, but it's possible to lower that potential.
Yes.
By just being herringbone or solid rubber or spirals or whatever, right? And so it's like, if you know that this is what works, why do you keep with this?